So, Colin, let's jump forward to early 90s. Who would you say from the early 90s is your go-to artist?
Huh. Stuff that's early 90s, it's a lot of different people because it was a weird era. The early 90s, right like between 88 and 92, it was like we were getting out of prime MTV. It was before grunge. It was this weird sound that no one has really done since. It was like its own time capsule. It was this weird part too where a song hit number one and then immediately fell off the charts. They were trying to get into number one and then fell off. So you had like 25 different number ones each
Yeah,
year. It was like,
I remember that era. I remember Paula Abdul with Opposites Attract. That's the big
oh yeah,
song
one
I
just second.
remember from
Oh yeah.
there.
Yeah. I would say probably my go-to would probably be Janet. My go-to would probably
Janet.
be Janet from that era. I think Rhythm
What about
Nation,
you, PJ?
phenomenal.
Janet was huge. But there was so many. I mean, Britney Spears held down a good part of the 90s, didn't she?
In the late,
Um, there was Aaliyah on the R&B side of things who, lost her life too soon. Um, Selena, I think, who was huge in, Latin pop culture, was doing her thing. There was just so much going on with hip hop. Um, you know, Artists like Little Kim were in their heyday. So I don't.
TLC.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was just a Ace of Base, right?
Mhm.
The
Love Ace of
sign,
Base.
which that is all over commercials now, right? I see the
And here's the
commercials.
thing. Um, I didn't know this until recently. Ace of Base, their debut album was called Happy Nation,
Happy
except in the
Nation,
US where it was called The Sign. And
the
The Sign
sign.
is not even on Happy Nation. It was a US only cut.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Well, whoever
So,
made that decision read the market right.
Genius.
Turned
Genius
out
decision.
okay.
yeah, I mean for a European band to have such a great album over there, change a few songs and release it here under a totally different name. They were huge. They were massive success.
Yeah, Ace of
Um,
Base was doing their thing in the 90s. Also, on the hip hop end of the spectrum, in the early 90s, the Ghetto Boys put out a huge hit, which pretty much shook the foundation of hip hop and changed a lot of things. The song was called, had a great sample on it. The song was called "Mind Playing Tricks on Me" in '91. Yeah,
um,
you picked a
Yeah.
really, really cool era. Sheryl Crow.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, Colin, when what was the Jets from late
Jets was
80s
late
to early
80s.
90s?
That was they didn't really make it to the early 90s. They were just late
yeah,
80s.
they were done by the Jets. That's
88.
a family, right? A family group.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm
I
Minnesota.
actually so
Samoan, maybe.
one of the episodes of Square One I had Colin watch, literally the first segment was the Jets
Hmm.
doing a song called Infinity.
Hmm.
And Colin was like, I know this band, I know this
Yeah.
band. And finally he realized who it was.
The Jets. They were huge. They were huge.
Oh,
Yeah.
They got a lot of play across the spectrum. Um, I listen to them on R&B radio. I definitely know that they played on. They were in top 40, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, those guys were also a product of really good timing and some good family harmony. They were a great fun band and stuck around for a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, synthesizer style band.
Oh yeah, they were definitely 80s.
Yeah,
definitely. You could tell "Rock to You" is like one of the most late '80s songs ever made. You could tell.
Yeah.
yeah. Colin, what era is your kind of go-to if you're editing videos or just sitting back, relaxing, trying to not do anything?
Yeah, I would probably say like 88 to 91. Like, so here's the thing, there's a playlist on Spotify. There's a guy that does a playlist, and they update the Billboard Top 40 from that week
Oh
in
wow.
1989. And they
Oh
update
wow.
it every single week. And you listen to that like all the way through. And there's no skips. But the weird thing about it is how different everything sounds. You could go from the Bee Gees, they had a hit then, to Guns N' Roses,
To Bon
to
Jovi.
Bon Jovi, to Debbie Gibson, to Micah
Hall
Mike.
and
Like you
Oates.
could go with, yeah, like everyone who's anyone had a hit in 1989.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah,
just a
yeah, yeah.
great era for music. You had
Oh,
key changes and
it's
different sounds and solos. It was incredible.
yeah.
Lori says the Bangles is another
Oh
one.
yeah,
Classic, classic. Um,
Um, we also had a lot of one-hit wonders during that time too. Do you think that's just a product of it was so saturated with music that it was hard to get back on the charts, or back to the top of the charts with your follow-ups?
I would say that definitely played a part in it. There's always going to be one hit wonders for any era. I would say that was a weird transitional period where
Right.
no one really knew what was going on. You couldn't
I
really
mean,
like,
you had
like
you
if
had
you
your
defined
gold,
if you had a sound like it was outdated a year later.
yeah.
right.
And the other thing too, Kendra, I think is um, getting a hit in the top 200 is hard. And sometimes everything comes together for that one artist there in that studio. The right drugs were in place, the right producer, the right engineer happened to be there, and they made magic that night. It happens. I mean,
Right.
you hear of some of these renowned rock concerts for their flawlessness, that everybody was just in a zone, right? And you get these one hit wonders, and it's tough to create that magic consistently. It's tough. Not a lot of people do it.
What was the year that Billboard altered how they were counting radio play also?
I have no idea.
They had changed it. Like, they changed it a lot because like they changed it in the '90s when like singles could not be a thing. So what a lot of artists did was they like you had to have a single to be on the charts. So what a lot of artists did was they put their best song, they sent it to radio, but they didn't put it as a single. So you would have to buy the album, but it would never
Mm,
chart. So you had a lot of like some of the biggest songs in the '90s never charted.
Yeah.
gotcha. Because they weren't released as singles.
Yeah, like "Don't Speak" by No Doubt. That was I think "Torn" by Natalie Imbruglia. I don't think that charted.
Right. The and that was, I mean, I remember in the 80s you could buy singles on cassette.
Oh yeah,
And it was
absolutely.
literally one song on each side of the cassette,
Mhm.
super short cassette.
Yep.
Total waste of plastic. But I remember it was the thing. And then EPs, s- you started getting EPs in the 90s on CD that were 3, maybe 4 songs, and maybe the single was on there.
Hmm.
But I mean, by then everyone was just buying full CDs. I mean, who wanted to pay $5 for 3 songs when you could pay $9 for 11?
And Kendra, your go-to genre and era of music. What's your go-to for when you're just, you know, being Kendra?
So normally I'm listening to Classic Rewind on Sirius XM,
Hmm.
which is cassette rock. So if it was released on a cassette in the rock era, it's on that channel.
Okay.
But that's everything from late 70s to 90.
ZZ Top, Blue Oyster Cult, Ozzy,
What?
Lots of Bon Jovi, lots of Billy
Bon
Joel,
Jovi.
lots
Okay.
of
Brian
uh
Adams.
A lot of
yeah.
corner on that channel. A lot of corner.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of Foreigner, a lot of
Oh yeah.
YouTube.
Fogheart.
Boston.
But this week I've actually not been listening to that. I've been listening to um a genre that's more closer to my heart, and that is I've been listening to Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM, which is honky tonk country.
Mm,
Hmm.
very cool. That's interesting you'd say that because I'm working on my debut reaction for my George Strait set. And yeah, honky tonk comes up
A lot.
a lot in my yeah, in my mono. Um yeah, yeah.
So the the biggest thing for me though is having music that fits what I'm doing.
Mhm.
As both of you know, I'm on I listen to a lot of YouTube. I have YouTube Premium, so I don't have to deal with commercials. And I just have YouTube music on most of the time. And now that I have my Sirius XM account back, I have that playing almost 24/7. One of those two channels or Billy Joel channel when it's on.
Yeah, definitely for me it's mood. If I yeah, it depends. I mean anything for me from Twisted Sister. I
Oh yeah.
love it, love it. We're not gonna take it. So it could go, from some classic piano stuff, um, classical violin stuff, the range, jazz, hip hop. Lately, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of the African continent as far as um, progressive uh, type music, and it's been about around 2018 or so, but so genres like amapiano, which is an interesting one coming out of South Africa, which is piano based, but there's a lot of syncopation. It's electronic based, but it's very, very different. It's almost to me, if Africans were going to do hip hop, maybe this is what you get. But it's often looked at as a subgenre of house music. I don't know how familiar you guys are with house music, but it's a subgenre of house. It's a really, really interesting sound, and one that I find really soothing when I'm just doing editing and stuff. Just I'm a piano, and there's another one called, I think it's Afrobeat. Really interesting melodies. Sometimes it's in a different language, and to me, it's just sort of refreshing in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's y'all's take on techno style music?
I mean, I have no problem with techno. It's not my favorite. But I have no problem with techno. There's a good techno songs. I think for me too, in terms of like the mood, it depends on what I'm editing. It depends. Like if I'm editing a video about something from 1979, I will like to listen to 1979 music while I edit to just get me in the mood. It's like from
Very cool.
1994, listen to some from 1994, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hence why you have your 5-year rule, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
What was the question again?
uh,
I drifted off.
your thoughts about techno or instrumental beat
So like
music.
electronica in general,
Yeah.
as you guys know, it's massive in Europe. There are DJs that are multi-millionaires today, from you know playing this kind of music globally. I've always loved it. Um, I think it came out of, or it was probably born out of my love for house music, which is just some really interest. The origins of house music and hip hop music are quite interesting for me, and it's an area that
They're
that
quite
really,
intertwined too.
yeah. And at some point, they both went in different directions, but um, yeah, yeah. To complete whatever thought I was trying to make, it all started with house music. So all of that electronic stuff, I really have always enjoyed, and I have a playlist, and I try to find time for some of that stuff, because it just zones me out. Sometimes I get some good herb, you know what I mean? Some really sticky, icky stuff, and it's all legal in my state. And it's me and some good electronica, and yeah,
Cool.
I love it.
So uh, we'll wrap this up with this question. What what's the last song you heard to the, before coming on air with me today?
I've been listening to a playlist of the top 40 songs from this week in 1979. So the last one that I heard was Heaven Knows by Donna Summer.
Is We Are Family on there?
For this week, it is not on there for this week. But the top five this week at this time in 1979 was Hold the Line, YMCA, My Life, Too Much Heaven, and La Freak. So
Okay.
that's
Nice.
a great top five.
Hold the line.
Awesome.
Yeah.
PJ, what were you listening to before you came on?
So I am in the middle of doing a
I should
reaction.
have known it would be George Strait.
Yeah, George Strait. Is it the fireman? The fireman?
Oh, great song, great
Yeah,
song. Great play on words.
yeah, yeah. I am not done with it yet, but yeah, I did the open mono, and just kind of been getting it all set up. So I've
Nice.
heard it. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So, believe it or not, I heard a new version of Poncho and Lefty right before we came on air, and it's not by Willie.
Who's it by?
It's
Really?
um I believe it's Emmylou Harris, but
I
I
know she's done it in the past.
yeah, I think it's Emmylou Harris that I heard that the version on, but it was a live version from the Opry.
Okay.
So now I have to ask because I saw the news and I figure you have too, Colin. Are you releasing a JG9 news video on the Browns releasing coordinators?
I will probably do that at some point. Yeah. I was very surprised by the news. I did not think there
I,
were going to be a
I
lot
was
of.
surprised too. I could see positional coaches, but their coordinators actually did a really good job this year.
Did
So what they
somebody
did,
hire him out, or what's going on?
No, they were let go.
they just let him go.
I mean, the Browns got to the playoffs with five quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Five different quarterbacks started for the Browns, and they got to the wild card round.
Yeah.
So, and then
What happened before?
like three or four people go off their coaching staff.
Cleveland.
And I have it's almost like Cleveland doesn't want to get very far in the playoffs. I mean, they're known for the QB graveyard. So yeah,
QB's going to die. QB's going to die.
and QB's dying is what happened this year throughout the entire NFL.